I have a little window on my side over here.
All right. We are live. That's super exciting. Hello, everybody in the world of Facebook. Thank you so much for attending this live broadcast. I'm Paula Nowak with Canine Country Academy here in Lawrenceville, Georgia. And I have my friend and colleague on with us as well, Nancy Reyes from
Hello.
For Your Canine up in the Chicago, Illinois area. So how you doing, Nancy?
Great. How is everybody doing?
Good. Well, I'm super excited to have you talk about this topic because we both have been raising puppies over the last couple of years, specific to this topic. And I know a lot of our viewers are probably in the same boat where they have a puppy and they maybe want to start nose work for fun or for competition. And it's, taking over the world in nose work. And there's a lot of things we need to keep in mind when we are raising a puppy and utilizing nose work in it. And tonight, I really want to encourage the audience to be sure to post questions. I will make sure to ask Nancy those. And if you have any after the broadcast, this will be recorded and you can keep the conversation going so that you can get more information on Nancy because she's very skilled in this area. Nancy, why don't you give us a quick overview of your involvement in nose work?
Oh my.
Maybe not quick, but
yeah. Well, in 2010, I've been a long life fan of doing nose work. I used to do tracking. And back in the day, in 2009, I started a scent class to do handle discrimination. And I really enjoyed doing it and watching the dogs and everything else. So we had a small class going on. And then one day I decided I'm going to go look around and see if there's anything more on this subject. And lo and behold, I found NACSW, the National Association of Canine Scent Work. And I thought, well, this would be a wonderful little addition to our little class here. Wow. As soon as Amy Hero and Ron Gaunt came to my facility to do a workshop, I knew this was going to take over the world back then. And this thing that was supposed to be a small part of my business it's enormous. While we still do other things, nose work is a big part of what we do. So everything went very quickly. We started teaching nose work. We started doing trials in 2012, and we do lots and lots of trials. I do lots of workshops. I travel domestically and internationally doing nose work seminars and all that. And then we also did our first summit recently, which is now the next level, and recently became a certifying official for NACSW. And I've been a trial host for many years. Awesome. We teach in our facility about 30 plus classes a week in nose work.
That's just nose work, guys. That's impressive. That is not the only thing she's good at.
Myself and 5 other instructors. And then we also, of course, we do all behavior work and all the other things. So nose work is, we do quite a lot of it. So, and we just really enjoy it and we have a great time. So.
Yes, and we love having you come. It'll be your 3rd time coming to Georgia to speak at our facility in March. And so that's super exciting because you're just a wealth of knowledge and you kind of keep us fresh as instructors and as students. So, you've been raising puppies, I've been raising puppies, and both getting into scent work among the many other things that our puppies need. And I thought we would start out with just saying, why even get our puppy involved and what age should they start?
Well, competition piece of it is really is fun, and we have a great time doing it. Nose work is an incredible confidence builder for focus and attention, and it's magnificent for all the stuff that puppies need. So you can start your puppy right away, because one of the things you don't need to have obedience like you do for some of the other dog sports. Right. So nose work, you can start with that attention and focus, and in many cases we do start our puppies in nose work so they can, or at least make it part of the curriculum so they can start learning how to focus and pay attention and kind of have a little more impulse control too, because they have to work while trying to pay attention to other stuff. So it's been an incredible benefit for new puppies, my puppies included. Also, one of the great things about nose work, it's mental work. So mentally, it really tires out your puppy. So you have a nice, quiet, a little bit of nose work, and you have a nice, quiet evening at home. So
Right. Doesn't take much, does it?
not at all. So, and having two young dogs. That was a definitely a benefit.
Yes. Not a lot of homework. It's pretty easy to do anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And then gives them really great mental stimulation. And one of the co-founders, Jill Marie O'Brien, was doing nose work at the shelters to give some mental enrichment to the dogs. So nose work. While the sport and trialing is a really good time, but aside from that, it really brings a lot of benefits to the development of your puppy.
Right. Yeah, because they get introduced to new things in a safe way, in a way you can modify based on the individual dog.
Correct. Right.
Gotcha.
And NSASW developed this program for all dogs, which is why we start on food, which makes it even easier for puppies, right? So.
Right. Yeah. Less problems potentially.
Right.
And so when you think about, puppy developmentally, if you start them at, let's say 10 to 12 weeks, what are some of the things we need to keep in mind as they mature going along, the first year of life and doing nose work?
Well, one of the things when you start them anywhere between 8 to 16 weeks, they do go through some sensitivity periods. So you want to be very cautious of how much you push them, how much you expose them to, and also when they are going through a sensitivity or fear period, how to kind of handle that so that they don't get worried or scared. So, and nose work is a great way of introducing them to just that easy, calm, and different environments in a very positive way.
Good. And, those fear sensitivities or fear periods, they can happen at different times, right? So what are some of the things we're looking for to go, whoa, we might need to change our approach?
One of them is like, for example, if we're fine with the boxes one day and then the next week it's a problem, or if they're worried about something that they've never worried about before. So those are things that you want to look for, because a lot of times people try to push them through it, and sometimes it's just better to back off and wait and then go back to it. So usually a sensitivity period is when they start worrying about things that they weren't previously worried about. And that's how you kind of know if it's a fear period or something else, right? And the sensitivity periods depend on the genetics, and there's a lot of things that go into when they happen. And there's no set time for each dog. Every dog's an individual. So it could happen for some dogs at 9 weeks and others at 12 weeks. So it really depends. It's just to be vigilant and be aware of it.
Right. And it's not like it happens for 10 minutes. It can also vary the length of time.
Right. It could be a couple of days to maybe a week. When my older shepherd, who's now 10 and a half, at 5 months old, decided she was worried about the teeter, we took a break for a couple of weeks and we went back to it, and it was like she was never had a problem with it at all. So it came as quickly as it left as quickly as it came. So that's kind of how you want to look at it. Instead of worrying about it, just take a break and then go back and try it another time.
Right. Because I think a lot of people probably do worry about it because their puppy, 3, 4, and 5 months of age were rocking it out, whatever their activity was.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, and they might try to overwork it where you took a break. So it's okay to take a break from that thing.
Right.
Or make it simpler.
Right. Or or back it down some. Just go back to just maybe one box with food and, make it, just modify it depending on what the dog's problem or concern is. Gotcha. And you're right. The dogs they're pretty good at it. They really enjoy it. And then they start to kind of push a little, and that's where the kind of problems may arise as you go through. So.
Right, because it's super fun. You're really enjoying your puppy. Maybe you're new to the sport and you're like, man, my puppy's awesome at this, and there's competitions and I got to get in because there's not another ORT for 6 months. I got to do the thing. But, when you look at a puppy, even though they're each individuals, are there any cautions on putting them on odor really early in their nose work careers?
Well, and that's a big controversial topic, but
It is.
the NACSW um, wanted to make the sport available for all dogs. So that doesn't mean that putting dogs on odor is wrong or bad. It's just that some dogs, if they have issues or they're worried, or in the case of puppies, if they start too soon and we misjudge the sensitivity period or the fear period, it is very difficult to a lot of in the early sensitivity periods. Some of the things that scare the dogs can be lifelong. In other words, if they get scared of something in a pretty traumatic way, that fear can last for a lifetime.
Right.
And so that's the only caution, especially if people have the intention, like I did. I got 2 puppies. My intention is to compete with them. So I was very careful around those periods with them because I want to be able to go ahead and compete with them down in the future. So I wanted to ensure that nothing bad was going to be associated with that odor. So that is why I started them on food, built drive, took them lots of places to do nose work on food, and just really developed that skill and that drive for that. Because the truth of the matter is, putting them on odor is the easiest part of nose work, right?
Right.
The problem solving and all that is it's much more important. And because putting them on odor is pretty simple. Even if you start them on food, they are going to be easy to transfer over to odor. It takes maybe a couple of days, if that. The dogs really make that transition very, very quickly. But the problem solving is is really what you want to work on, so they can go into different environments and work out problems and not be worried about it. So
Right. And just environmental new things.
right.
They've never been everywhere.
Right,
Maybe
and
like
that's why people have this misnomer that NACSW it's all about food. It's no, they did it so that nose work is available for all dogs. All dogs can do it no matter what, and that's what, and it's proven because we have many dogs. A lot of our clients have gone to nationals and summit trials, and some dogs have issues. They've had issues or problems. Some people have started young puppies, and it works. It works consistently and all the time. So it's a proven methodology that works really, really well.
Awesome. So I'm going to put you on pause for a moment and see if we have any questions. So if you guys have a question out there in Facebook land for Nancy regarding this topic, this is your time to have some one-on-one time with Nancy. And you can post that in the comments, and then I will make sure to read it aloud for everyone and share it. You guys are probably seeing little blips of things that I'm sharing as well. So it looks like we do have a question. So from Valerie Taylor, thank you for asking the first question. You rock. What do you do for the puppy who does not enjoy food, Nancy? What if they're not food motivated?
Well, you can always start with toys. You can enjoy. You can start your dogs on finding a toy, right, in a box or whatever. So you can.
Oh no, we lost it. Oh, there you are. We lost you for a second.
So toy. You can also start nose work with toys as well, right? Because puppies
Right.
will search for that. Because sometimes puppies develop the appetite and all that changes as they grow and develop. So you might be able to make that transition, and it's usually not too hard to make the transition for the puppies.
Right. Sometimes you have to be really creative to find what they like.
Oh yeah. Yep, you can. Yeah, and I mean, I have students that use chicken McNuggets. Some people make sausage for the dogs, so it really depends on. And of course, be careful with with in trying to do too many different foods because on the other side of that isn't any fun. But toys work just as well.
Yes.
So.
Yes. And sometimes using, if you're in a class, your students' food, right? So sometimes it's
right.
better, their hot dogs for whatever reason that night are better than
In your hot dog.
that you grilled and cooked, perfectly, right?
But if the dog isn't particularly food toy, we have a couple of toy reward dogs, and it works just as well.
Yeah, it's a little different, but it's just as fun.
And you start them very much the same way. You put the toy in a box. Puppy has to go find the toy, and you play around that. And then just developing that problem solving skills are wonderful. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the play, a lot of puppies don't know how to play because we don't really institute that early on if we don't know, how to use toys and play.
Right.
We've got another question for you, Nancy. Good job on that first one. This one is in regards to our short-nosed dog. So Mary asked, do short-nosed dogs do okay with nose work?
Oh, yes. Yeah. They do super well. Well, we have several Frenchies, boxers are just fine. Right.
Yeah. Is there anything we need to consider with maybe the size of the puppy or if their face is smushed versus not?
The biggest consideration would be heat, sorry.
Gotcha.
Heat, those dogs tend to be a little more heat intolerant because of their little smushy faces, but they do just as well. We have several boxers and Frenchies that do nose work, and they kick butt. They do just as well as everybody else. So that doesn't stop them.
Approach.
Yep. It's just the only thing that is be careful is the heat. They can be intolerant to heat, so trying to have them search where there's a lot of heat is can be a little challenging for them. But otherwise, not really. It's the same as any other dog. So
that's awesome. All right, we have another question for you. This one's from Hannah. Is there any issue with switching primary? We thought Hannah would show up for this, right?
Yeah.
Her and her Farrahhound puppy. Is there any issue with switching primary for indoor and outdoor? So not a puppy, but she has a shepherd client who's not normally into food, but her high value tennis ball meant nothing outside, which is interesting. Is it an issue to switch back and forth? So going from food to toy when you're just starting out on primary?
Not really, even though I've not had that issue too much. But I think you can. So the food was more important for the shepherd outside versus the toy outside, which is very interesting.
German Shepherd.
I know all about those kinds.
I know you do.
But so let me ask you a question. Does she not want food inside?
Right. So Hannah, if you'll respond to us on that, we're going to put your question on pause then and come back to it.
Yeah.
So did she like food inside? All right, so we've got, let's see here. Got another question. This one's from Sharon. My puppy loves food and to play with the boxes too. Should she ignore the box play?
So you need to probably get in there and remove the box and reset her a little quicker so that you don't develop a box crusher, right? Because that usually what happens. So if they can get reinforced, and what you can do is use maybe a couple of boxes. Have one box, have her find that one, and then have her take a few feet away, put another one, so she'll leave it to go find another one, and then eventually she'll start to just keep searching, right? And eventually
keep the game going.
The game going, so that she's not playing with the boxes, right? And then in there a little quicker too. So you can have multiple and have one box here, one box there. She'll find one, you pick up that box and have her keep searching for another one. And that'll keep her from too much box play. Because those puppies tend to be a little more, but they can become box crushers, which is something else you'll have to fix later. So don't let it start.
Yeah, let's not start with it. So Hannah replied that no, the food was not important inside, only Vienna sausages, refuses chicken and cheese.
Wow.
But
she'll eat the food outside?
We'll have to find out. Okay, so when searching inside, she consistently blew off food to start. Now she has the search skills. She found Vienna sausages, but may not like them next week. So she's hot and cold, it sounds like.
Oh, okay. All right. So she might then consider, I see, refuse chicken or cheese. Wow. My dog is
complicated.
So I would definitely change up her reinforcement all the time and have her just start looking for different food because I've had a couple of dogs like that, and they do eventually start to get into the rhythm of the game. It's just for her, she's still trying to figure out what the deal is, right? So I would maybe try to get her really, really drivey inside before I take her outside, right? I'd really build those skills inside, yes, before I take her outside.
Okay, that's a good one.
So you want to develop those skills inside and in different rooms inside, and then eventually go outside, because outside might just be too much at this time in her learning. So that might just be too much for her. So keeping her inside, changing up the treats, building that drive before you take her back outside.
And that leads me to a question myself. When let's say whether we're on primary or we're on odor, whether it's a puppy or an adult, the rate of reinforcement, do we want to keep that high consistently even after puppyhood? Some people like to kind of go like, oh, I want my puppy to show me a finished behavior, or they expect more from them. Should they be paying really fast when they're puppies?
Well, yes, and really reinforce that behavior. And initially, when they're very young puppies, with my personal puppies, when they were on food, I just did a lot of self-reward. I didn't go back in there and pay. I just let them keep working. Mm-hmm. And now that on odor, I also I'll pair it a little more, because they're still in that, pairing the odor with food so that they can find it. And then eventually then we'll back off on the pairing once they get the drive. They keep the drive up for searching for that. So yeah, and then eventually getting in there. And it really is very dog dependent. Some dogs are very good about working independently, and other dogs, they start looking to you for, food. So you want them to really just be focused on the task at hand.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. We got a few more questions coming in here. You guys are doing an awesome job of asking questions. I'm going to show that one that we just asked. So Jeannie, who when selecting a puppy with nosework competition in mind, what characteristics and personality traits would you look for? That's a good one.
That is a really good one. When you are looking for a puppy, definitely you want to look for a puppy who's pretty environmentally confident. So whenever you're selecting a puppy, seeing the puppy by itself without the littermates, really important. So if the puppy is pretty confident and kind of checks out the environment, that's a good thing. The other thing is, if they get worried about something, how quickly do they recover? So their bounce back is really important. Resilience. How quickly do they recover from a scary thing, right?
Right, like a loud noise or something falling.
Yeah, noise or something falls. You definitely want a puppy that's going to recover from that very quickly, right? Because those are two big important pieces in a nosework dog. Is, can they get over stuff that's scary and get back to work? And are they confident in the environment, right? Can they check stuff out and not be worried about going into new places, over footings and things like that? So those are all things that you really want to make sure your puppy has. Because those, not that you can't do it with a puppy who doesn't have that, but it makes the whole journey a lot quicker.
Right. If you're going, down the path of I'm selecting for this thing, I want to try to get as many of the variables that could be a concern out of the way. Right. Do you care much about how they take in their world at that point as well?
Yes, and ideally, here's I'm going back to, if they take their world in. Some dogs are more auditory, some dogs are more visual, some dogs are more olfactory. Obviously, olfactory is going to do way better in nose work, but not necessarily. But they're going to be just already predisposed to checking out that.
Right.
Don't really care for dogs that are very noise sensitive, because that can be difficult. However, you can have a noise sensitive dog that's very resilient, that'll get over it. So yes, while they're going to be aware of it, they can just get past it and be like, oh, it's okay. So no, I mean, it's something you want to be aware of, but it wouldn't be a deal breaker if the puppy has a good resilience, right? So
gotcha. Yeah. And you can have a puppy who is really into their nose, but everything's relevant, right? They're not focused.
Right. Well, yeah, because sometimes those puppies that are really olfactory, training some of the other stuff is a little more challenging. So just being aware of how they take in their world is great, but as long as they have a pretty decent resilience and they can kind of get past it, you'll be fine. So
You still have to
environmental.
live with this dog at the end of the day. You still have to live with the dog at the end of the day.
Both my puppies are very environmentally confident. My lab puppy is a little more aware of noise, but doesn't bother. She gets past it and over it really fast. So it hasn't affected her ability to do nose work at all. So.
Okay. Very good question there. Valerie has another question. What other skills do you think are important for a nose work career?
Skills, well, being environmentally confident, being able to go different places and be able to take in the world. The other thing that's a huge important skill is crate training.
Oh, yes. Crate training, not just at home, huh?
Not just at home. Your puppy and your dog should be very comfortable being crated anywhere. So that is a huge skill that many don't seem to put so much importance on. But crate training is huge and really important, and being able to relax and rest in that crate is super, super important. Because if you're going to compete, they have to be crated for long periods of time and have to be comfortable in that environment and be able to be around dogs. The other skill, they should be comfortable around other dogs. They don't have to be buddy and friendly, but they should be comfortable around other dogs and people. Be comfortable. Again, they don't have to be super friendly, but they should be able to handle being around people and dogs and different environments. And then being crate trained. Those are the big ones for a smooth ride into the nose work, right?
Right. Because you're trying to not create any problems. You're on the prevention path if you're starting with a new puppy.
Right. For example, my puppy, we had an event yesterday. I took my 15-month, 16-month-old shepherd puppy with me. He sat in a crate for the day. I took him out. We did a couple searches, put him back. So he gets comfortable in that environment, and there's dogs and people, and it was a new place. And he did fantastic. So I know he's going to be, as we go through towards our nose work career, he's going to be great.
So let's talk about that a little bit more for crate training. So obviously we want to crate train our dog or puppy at home, right? Because it's a life skill. Prepare them to ride in the car potentially or hang out in the car, right? Because there may not be crating at the venue.
Right.
Maybe do some mock trips, where if we plan on traveling with nose work. Some people don't because, they don't want to travel beyond, their state. But if you do, can they crate in a hotel quietly?
Right.
Quietly and at a venue, right? So if there is crating on site, because it's not just NACSW, there's UKC and AKC and all these other activities you can do scent work.
Right.
And then I was thinking too, at workshops, right? So when you come here, we set up with dogs in the room. I mean, they can have visual barriers, but they are in the room together. Right. So that would be important too, right? Can you think of any other areas that they should practice when it comes to the crate training? Did I miss anything?
No, I think you've hit it on that, and being able to create it, and keep going to different places and creating. And even if it's not a nose work event, if you're going to just another event where you can take your crate and your dog can sit in it and be comfortable and happy,
right. Don't expect them to be okay with it if you've never done it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And especially, and then, traveling in the car, is your dog comfortable in the car? If all those things, and those are kind of lifelong things. You can't, if they're okay when they're 5 months, you better be sure they're okay at 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever months they are, and that they're comfortable with it. Right.
Right. Yeah. It's a good life skill. And then different kinds of crates, right?
Mm-hmm. The other thing, and just something that happened to me personally, my shepherd puppy, I took him when he was young to ride in an elevator. Yesterday he had to ride an elevator. He was a little worried about it. So it was very interesting. I thought, he hadn't done it in a little while. So
right. And when you notice those things, you're like, okay, add that to my training, right?
Right. So I got treats and stuff and made it good for him on the way down. So yeah.
One of the things you have talked about when we've had you here for mental management is to start keeping a log. Would that be valuable when you're starting with your puppy about your nose work training?
Absolutely. Especially when you start training your puppy, because you want to, in the early part of this training, you want to start with building some drive and being very motivated and problem solving. So you want to set up problems and things like that for the puppy to be able to work out. And it's really when when you keep a log, you'll be able to see patterns. Like he had a little trouble outside today, and did he have trouble before yesterday or whatever? And it also kind of give you a big hint as to when the fear or sensitivity periods are starting to come on too.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
That's something that you may not think of doing, when you're just starting out.
because I always recommend to my puppy classes for the folks to keep a log of the potty training and things like that. When did they potty? If they had an accident, when it was, because very clearly you can start to see patterns of, oh, at 3:00 he pees, so then you maybe take him out, at 2:50, so that way at 3:00 there's no peeing inside. So those are things that you can start doing with your nose work training as well.
Right, you can have a little section for that.
Right, your environment. Where did you take him? Where did they do nose work? Was he the fast? Was he same? How quickly did it do it? Was he more cautious? All those little pieces of information that'll help your puppy be more comfortable as he goes forward.
That's awesome. And yeah, I shared there that Jeannie, it's the best thing, and she doesn't have a puppy right now, but working her own dog, that has been the best thing for her arsenal, is keeping a journal.
Oh yeah.
Because if you're going to compete with your dog, you don't want to go about it willy-nilly. This is a lot of money when it comes to training and travel, and right? We don't want to calculate those costs.
No, it's not.
Especially since we're the ones taking a lot of it. But but we want our students to be successful.
Right.
And so if you're going to spend the time with your puppy starting out, it's really important that you don't create problems as best you can starting out.
And the other thing Nosework does, which this is the best part, it does strengthen the bond between you and the dog. It is just the coolest part. And I know this is a corny story, but I'm going to say it anyway. I was COing in Seattle, Washington State, and I saw this team do the search. It was a vehicle search, I remember. And the best part was watching them leave that search very connected, very bonded, and they were together. It was the coolest thing. And that's the one thing about Nosework I just love. It just strengthens that bond between the handler and the dog like no other sport. So I just love it.
It's awesome because they're the ones with the nose.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we've got a couple other questions here. Lisa White, slightly off topic, but I think it's a good question nonetheless, because not everybody has a nose work instructor by them, or not everyone actually teaches it if they are a dog trainer or behavior consultant. And so she wanted to know, where do you learn to teach nose work? Is this, this is something she might want to teach her clients?
Well, ideally, if you can train with someone, that would be very, very helpful. There's a couple of online options, but some people, like I have people that live remotely. So I think Kim Buchanan, Joyride Canine, has some online classes that you can take and kind of learn more about it. So that's great. And then ideally finding somebody that maybe you can go to, if it's once a month or every other month, to train with them to confirm you're doing everything right. Because unfortunately, when the online stuff, I know people make assumptions about how they think, or interpretations, and sometimes it's not quite right. And before you get too far along down that situation where it could be causing problems, where it could cause problems down the road, going to see somebody and kind of work on those would be really, really helpful.
Yeah, because there's so many variables to it.
Right. So while I know Kim does a nice job with her workshops, so I would highly recommend hers if you're remote and you don't have an instructor nearby.
Yeah. Lisa doesn't, she lives in the island of Barbados, so online is definitely something she's going to want to look into.
And if you can, So Kim is a Joyride Canine, and then if she's ever able to leave that lovely island, and doesn't do a workshop, that would be great.
Oh goodness, it's too funny.
So who'd want to leave there? But anyway, that's another story.
Like most definitely. Because it's something that can be applied to so many, things. I mean, we both use it for behavioral things, but it's good for everybody, and it's good for the handlers too, because maybe a handler isn't as physically able to do some of the other activities, and it's something that they could do with their young dog easily.
Right. And I think Kim Buchanan is one of the founding staff members of Canine Nosework, so she really is very knowledgeable. So that's kind of where I point you.
Yeah.
For that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like Kim. All right, guys. So if you have any other questions, you can post them. You guys have been doing a great job. This is a big deal, having this interview and having someone we can ask direct questions. We pay good money to see you, right? So we get it for free on Facebook. That's amazing. So is there anything, Nancy, that we haven't asked that you feel is really important that we should touch on regarding raising a Nosework puppy?
Well, one of the things is you want to be, when you start to explore, and one of the things I wanted to touch on, you can do on primary, which is food or toy, I usually like to expose my puppies to all elements on primary. So doing interior searches, container searches, online would be really great. And usually what I use is a very large tin that's magnetized, and the food goes in there, and the puppies get used to working the vehicles that way, and exteriors. Again, but there's no rush, but you definitely want to be able to expose them to as much as possible as you go on. The other thing that's really important is teaching them about pottying while they're doing nose work. Because that, as we get further along, I have an intact male shepherd. So he is learning that when he has his harness for nose work, he doesn't get to pee in that ever. He only when it comes off and he's under the collar. Now, he's never tried to pee during a search, but I also don't want him to know that that's an option. So you definitely want to make sure you potty your puppy, you give him really good information and be very clear about what we're doing. And when you're doing this, you don't get to pee. I think it makes it easier going down the road as adolescence hits, and as they become more focused on other things when they hit the teenage.
Right, they're more hormonal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then, if they already don't know, if you train them as a puppy not to go to the bathroom while they're doing nose work, life is easier than the rest of the way. So that's one big kind of oversight that you don't think about it. Well, he's a puppy, he had to pee. Well, if he gets used to searching and then peeing and then going back to searching, it becomes a thing. So usually this is where you want to give them really clear information about what's okay and what's not okay, and about when they're searching, they don't go. Even the searches are short. I know it's a lot of trouble, but it's worth doing the groundwork now so that you don't have the problem later on.
Right. Set up those protocols now.
Right. And the expectations so that they know. And in their minds, they never get to pee while they're doing nose work. So
you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it. Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hannah has a follow-up question to that really good point about equipment. Is there any equipment you would specifically recommend for nose work?
Well, ideally you want a harness, whatever. There's so many different harnesses out there. So it really what works for you. Comfort Flex is one. The Easy, I think it's Easy Walk one. There's a harness. There's a Brilliant Canine harness. So I've seen all of the above, and it's really what's comfortable for you and your dog. What I really would not recommend is, the no pull harness. Don't do nose work on a no pull harness, because nose work is one of the few places that puppies are able to pull.
Right.
So you don't want them to think it's okay to pull you on a no pull harness. So be very mindful of that, right? Make sure you change up that equipment. So you can use, usually the harnesses that have the clip on the back allows that, you can pull. The ones that clip in the front, they shouldn't be pulling on that. So right. Some folks have the two harnesses on, but the Freedom harness has a front clip and a back clip, and some people just change the leash from one to the other. So there's different options, and it really depends on what you're comfortable with and what's comfortable for your dog. And not every harness is a good fit for all dogs, so you have to be kind of mindful of that. What you do want to make sure is that the harness doesn't restrict movement. The upper arms make sure that they can get a full stride out and be able to have a lot of freedom in the harness to move. So
especially for our developing puppies.
exactly, that they're not putting any pressure on things that are important or restricting their motion in any way.
Right. And as they grow, depending on what size your puppy is, you also have to think about the financial investment,
Right.
what what you're getting into each time.
Yeah. Well, I have a big boy. My Shepherd's a big dog, and yeah.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
lab has the same harness. She grew right into that. He's a horse. So he's
Yeah. I think of those like Julius canines that are, $60 or more.
right.
Can get a little costly.
Right.
We've got another question from Valerie here. Do you prefer neutered or intact boys for nose work, or based on individual needs of the dog? So what do you think about that aspect?
Well, I'll be honest, whether they're neutered or intact, I've seen them be very successful both ways. So it just really depends on it's very dog specific, and very much depends on, we have dogs that are breed dogs that compete in nose work, don't have any problem. And, we have plenty of neutered males at pee. So it really
Right.
depends. It really depends on your needs. I am a proponent of keeping the dogs intact as long, until they're finished maturing and developmentally complete, and then neutering at that time, because that just great healthy, and they need the hormones to grow and develop.
And it varies, right?
As much as it varies and it depends on the dog's size. Like I said, my Shepherd is very big. He's now starting to go through that hormonal period. And yes, sometimes I want to neuter him myself, but I know he needs those hormones to grow. So keep on keeping on with that. So there's no better or worse on that. It really is very dog dependent.
Yes, and that applies to everything.
Absolutely.
And even the female dogs, I have a 14 and a half, 15-year-old dog who is a girl. And that is my biggest
marker.
Concern. Oh yeah. And, so many people think, I don't want to get a male dog, or I'm going to neuter them early. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. It could be a girl thing too.
Yep. Oh yeah.
They can.
Yeah. My little Lucy, little Mint Pin, she was my most intense marker. She did to the end of her life. She marked on everything. So yeah, it doesn't matter. It depends on the dog.
It does. So it's just better to set them up with equipment, set expectations,
right. and be clear from the beginning, right?
So let's say you did all that. They're in their specific harness and they do, mark or they urinate because they're babies. Maybe you thought they eliminated, but they didn't. We all have that with housebreaking. What do you do in that moment when they make a mistake?
In that moment, I would just give them a little break. You don't have to be mad about it. Just give them a little break and then reset them and set them up for success. So until your puppy's pretty reliable and his bladder is pretty reliable, I would keep the searches very short and quick. So that way there's no opportunity to pee.
Right. So it's a learning point for yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I wouldn't get too upset about it. I mean, it happens, but I would definitely try to keep it, just put them up and then try again, and then just keep the searches quicker, shorter, and
they just don't get to play the game for a moment.
Yep. And then get them back on track. Right.
So when they're developing, Hannah's asking about female dogs and heat, if they become sensitive during this, and many do, especially early on in their heat cycles. Would you treat it similar to a fear period and just wait till it's over, make it really simple? What would you advise in that regard?
Well, I just a couple of days ago, as a matter of fact. And no, I still searched with her. I just made them a little simpler. And she wasn't very sensitive. She just slept a little more. But I still did some searches with her, but I kept them simple. And I didn't get too crazy going different places. I just did quick, simple, and kept building her drive and all that at home. And she's great wearing the little girly panties. So she worked in those at our facility, in and around there, and she had no problems at all. So I wouldn't stop because it's 3 weeks of training that you would miss out on unless the dog is having some major sensitivity issues. But if she's only, if she's more tired or whatever, just keep the searches fun and easy and simple and keep on training.
We actually have a client whose dog during heat cycles will urinate, and this is the only time she does in a search area when she is in her cycle. So she almost has to go on break because she just every single time.
Yeah. Or for that dog, I would just stay inside. I would not go outside.
Do it inside.
Oh, she does it inside.
Yes.
Does she wear girly panties?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. So they just take a break.
Yeah. Don't practice that behavior, that's for sure.
Right, because it really depends. They each have their
yeah, and some dogs, some females go into their heat cycles are really traumatic, and they can get. So yeah, if they get real sensitive and all that, yeah, taking a break isn't a bad thing.
Right. Yeah, and that's something that as instructors we have to coach people sometimes because they're like, "Well, I need to come." It's like, but your dog.
Right, and maybe they can do stuff at home during that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Keep it really simple.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, you have a little less than 15 minutes to get your questions in. We're going to try to keep it to an hour. You guys have been awesome, asking really good questions. That makes our job easy, right, Nancy? To just answer them because there's so many things to consider with raising a nosework puppy. I think nowadays, if you've started nosework and you started with an adult dog because you didn't know about it. You didn't know about nosework, and then you went through that, learning period, and now maybe you've gotten another dog in addition, or you've lost, a senior dog, and now you're starting over like, hey, I want to set myself up for success.
Right.
I want to try to get this ideal candidate.
Right. And the problem is some people that have had dogs that started as adults, they didn't have to go through all these developmental pieces, right? So they didn't have to go through it. The dogs were already mature dogs, so they didn't have to deal with it. So one of the things is be patient. It'll come, and your dog will be great. It's just that people feel that they have to hurry, and there's no need. And the other thing to consider too is how much pressure you're putting on your young puppy. A little pressure is okay. A lot of pressure is not. Some dogs don't handle that pressure very well, especially when they're very young. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure nosework stays fun for them. And while it is usually fun, I have seen people that have taken away the joy of nosework for the dog by putting lots of pressure at a very young age, because especially if the dog happens to be really good at it. The better the dog is, the more pressure people put on the dog. So that's the downside of having a super duper nosework puppy, right?
Right. It's our companion dog. It's not a working.
Right. It's something to very much to consider is putting the pressure and taking the time and just really being a partner for your dog and an advocate for your puppy to make sure that you will have plenty of time to compete. You will have plenty of time to work with your dog. So you just want to be patient, especially if you have a dog that's already going. Sometimes a puppy, you might have to take a break. You might have to slow down. You might have to wait for them to develop and to finish growing and stuff. So.
Yeah, it sounds like one of yours wants to give a little opinion about that as well.
Oh my God. He's her husband. Husband is not managing it that well.
Just it's a little something extra to add.
Oh
it makes me think of children, not that either one of us have had personal experience with this, but I think of maybe like a child pianist, and they're really good, their parent got them started. They're actually really good at it. They enjoy it. But then if they get pushed to go to all the concerts or do all the things and they don't actually get to be a child,
right,
you get into trouble there, just like you would with your puppy.
Right.
Still do the other things.
Right. Make sure that your puppy has time to be a puppy and to play and do puppy things and grow up as normal and well-rounded as possible, right? You want to give them those good exposure and enjoy their puppyhood. And you enjoy the puppyhood too, because it's pretty quick.
Right. And that be patient. I feel like we need to put like tattoos on people because we want our puppies to be potty trained and be excellent at, obedience. And now, if we add in the nosework, that could just be overwhelming, Yeah,
absolutely. And so and then we tend to want to hurry up with some of that stuff. Unfortunately, you have to give that, give yourself a break, and it'll come. It'll come.
Right. We need those reminders. I need those reminders. I actually didn't put Norby on odor till this year, and he's just now turned 2.
Yeah.
I really waited because we've struggled with some frustration behaviors on his part. So, and I'm really thankful I did, because now he can easily be on all 3. And I didn't rush it. I could have, but I didn't feel like he was ready.
Right. And
that's hard.
It is hard, because especially some of the other dogs might be moving right along. Right?
Yeah. Well, and
he's
my dog, he's
right. No, I just put my guys on odor. My Shepherd's only been on odor for a couple of months, and my Lab's been on odor for maybe 4 months, 4 or 5 months, and they're a little over. They're a little over a year, both of them. So
yeah, there's no rush. We practice what we preach, right, Nancy?
That's right. That's right.
We've got a couple other questions here. One is from Terry. She has a Labrador who she started as a puppy. Kudos to her. And he's now 15 months. And she's working on stopping the stomping or tapping on the box. I know him personally, so I'm trying to be super good. Yeah. So what tips do you have if you're like, oops, he already is a stomper?
There's
I'm listening closely, Terry.
Yes, because I will have a box tapper myself. So really basically what I like to, my Labrador is showing signs of that already. So what happens, what I do is, you can set up a line of boxes with an odor, one of them has odor. Just move your pace, adjust your pace, and see where and make it against a wall, so that way he's not able to get around to stomp on him, and just increase your pace a little bit, and then see where he gives you the change of behavior, and then get in there and pay. So that'll keep him from box stomping.
And like at a distance that he can't maybe reach out.
Right. Or just move. If you're moving a little faster, he's not going to be able to. I had a client with a chocolate lab, surprise, surprise. That was a box stomper, and that's what we had to do. We started to change our pace, increase it to go a little faster, and it totally took care of that box stomping situation. And now she's an elite dog now, and she doesn't have any problems with that.
So there's hope.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
That's so important. There's hope.
Yeah, no, and I have a lab too, and I can see that being a thing. So, and the balance there is, you want to keep the motivation and drive without killing it if you're trying to stop them from stomping the box. So just adjusting your pace, maybe have a box with a lot of odor where he has a quick change of behavior, and get in there and pay really quickly will help with him not wanting to trample the box, right?
So skill builders versus
right.
You know where it is, get in there.
Right.
Yeah. That's really, Terry says thanks. Yeah. Because he's very drivey. He is, he's got a lot of force and a lot of movement.
Right.
And the problem is intense.
Yeah. And then the problem is, you want to keep that drive, but you want to make sure that he's not,
well, we don't want to get faults, right? Like we don't want to have the dog who's like, oh, he's here.
Right. So then you might have to do a pace change or something to help, where he won't have time to get in there and stop the boxes. So.
Right.
Yeah.
She's just gonna have to be a ninja. That's just how it is.
Or she can pair it. She can have open boxes. You can do the same exercise with open boxes, or he can just go in there and get paid.
Gotcha. Good. All right, guys. Any other questions, and anything else, Nancy, too, that maybe came to mind with our conversation tonight about raising our Nosework puppies?
Well, it's a lot. It's a lot of complicated. The other thing too is to consider is when you vaccinate your puppies. Some dogs have reactions to vaccinations or whatever. So just be aware. Just to keep in mind what he's what they're, if they're not feeling well, it's okay to skip that day and not work your dog, and being patient. If your puppy maybe isn't into it that day, or has got other stuff that he'd rather do, let him be a puppy and go back and do some training later on. It'll still be there when when he's done.
Right. They're not going to forget everything.
Yeah, being patient is really, really key, because it's easy to get frustrated when the dog isn't working the way you think it should, and sometimes the puppies are big, especially the big breed dogs are big, and you think, oh, he should know this and he should be better at it. Well, unfortunately, that's not the way it goes.
Right.
They will mature when they're good and ready. They will develop. And you just can't rush it. You're just gonna have to be patient with it and enjoy it. And remember, like you said, they're our companions first and foremost. Nosework dogs second. It's just now that Nosework is in our lives for our new dogs, it does help with focus and attention and confidence building for those puppies that we might have had more challenges on how to get that done. Where Nosework provides a calm, relaxing environment. So even if your puppy is a little on the shy side, it'll so build their confidence and their confidence and their environment will be a less of a problem. So because we also use Nosework a lot for behavior issues too. So
Right.
it's a great sport, competing and not. It's wonderful.
Right, because your puppy never has to compete if you don't want to.
Nope.
You could play the same game over and over again, and they would be perfectly happy just getting food out of a box.
Right. They would be, and that's what I mean. It's like until and a lot of us don't enter the dog sport world thinking, I'm going to go in there and compete. I know I didn't. But here we are many years later.
Right.
doing what we do. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up because we don't have any additional questions. We had a great turnout. Thank you so much, Nancy, for giving us all of this information and spending time with us on your Sunday evening. I know your time is very valuable. We don't have a lot of it sometimes, but I'm so excited that you're going to be coming to us in March, but you'll also be in town. And for anyone who's going to the seminar with Amy that Leah is hosting over in Rome, Georgia in November, I believe, right? November, October?
Yeah, November.
But we will have you in March, and we have a couple different topics and private lessons. And so those will be going live for people to register to spend more quality time with you and learn even more in work dogs. So super pumped about that. And thank you guys so much for attending this interview with Nancy about raising a Nosework puppy. Anything else you want to share, Nancy, before we say goodbye?
No, I just, there's lots of information, but I'm looking forward to hanging out. And I really thank you, Paula, for having me. It was great fun and different experience, but I had a really good time. And there's so much more to do. So if you have a question, just feel free to contact me at Nancy@ForYourCanine if you have any additional questions, or Paula knows how to get a hold of me, so we can go through there. And
Yes.
I'm looking really, really forward to coming out to see you guys again in March. So
yes, so if Nancy hosts anything, make sure to attend it as well up in her area, whether it's competition or she offers a lot of workshops herself or brings people in.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Have a great week, and we're here for your Nosework needs. So we'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.